Yay! Oh, it's great to be back in the Louisiana, my stomping grounds as a youth, from the land of Yeehaw, Texas. But I'm glad to be back here. I was going to have a lucrative career. Man, I was going to study pre-dentistry up there at Northwestern. And then somehow or other, well, my lucrative career was still going to be lucrative, but it was going to be law enforcement. I went to Monroe, Northeast, and majored in law enforcement, and sure enough, joined the Houston Police Department. Well, you see, Louisiana State Police at that time, 1976, was only paying about $525 a month. Houston, woo, big money. $1,000 a month. And a little more adventure for a young guy like me. Oh, it was great. I got into that police academy and I was doing right well until that last week of the academy. They brought all these different divisions out for the men to tell us what kind of work they did. And the last ones up were members of the canine detail, the guys that handled the dogs. Oh, that was pretty neat. They had dogs tracking, they had dogs sniffing out drugs, bombs, holding crowds back, and latching on to the criminals. I thought that was all right, until one of those dogs lost his train of thought, and it went over to Lieutenant Anderson and hiked his leg, and that's right, I've been over there just laughing so loud. And you've seen those movies with drill instructors? That's what happened to me that day. They run up there, got right in my face, started calling me every name you better not pronounce, that's in the book or not in the book. Belittled me. It was tough. And shortly after that, one of those canine officers said, "Well, boy, do you have a dog you think could do as well as ours?" I said, "Oh, my shy, I have a pet that can do better than any of your dogs." The gauntlet was thrown down, the challenge taken and accepted. I graduated from the academy just a week later, and then we met at that gymnasium where the academy was, and we were going to have a contest. I brought my pet along, and we had tracking, jumping over obstacles, sniffing out drugs, sniffing out bombs, holding the crowd back, and the last little competition was reaching out there and latching on to some criminal. They had that policeman in a big padded suit with his arm. He'd stick his arm out there and those dogs would jump up there and bite it and just, arr. My pet stepped up there and kind of grinned at him and opened his mouth wide, and those big old teeth were just shining. That officer in that padded suit turned tail and ran. I made it into the Canine Corps. I took my pet and I had my own special patrol car where my pet would ride in the back. And theirs all had this big canine sticker on the back of it. Mine has G9. You see, I had an alligator. Snappy, the amazing pet gator. He and I had had many adventures in our youth. But now we were patrolling the streets of that dangerous city, Houston, Texas. We went out there and chased criminals. We tracked little lost kids. We found the drugs. We found the bobs. And on occasion there were riots. And we held them back. You better believe they stayed way back. Oh, we started getting a little famous there in Houston. Got our picture in the paper a time or two, and we were somewhat the talk of the town, and then something happened. Sometimes public relations and media attention is just a little too much. There was a little lost girl down on Galveston Bay, right on the mainland. You could look across and see the Galveston Island across there and the marsh and such. And I took Snappy out there, complete in his police uniform. He kind of had a vest he wore that said, "Houston Police Animal." For some reason, they wouldn't put gator on there. I don't know why that is. But anyway, I took Snappy, and Snappy sniffed around and tracked that little 4-year-old girl right down to the water. Oh, you should have seen everybody's hearts just drop. The family started weeping and crying because we figured that poor little girl had fallen into that water and drowned. So I took Snappy off the leash. Snappy dove down in that water and disappeared for a little bit, then popped up about 100 yards off and was swimming toward the point of one of the marshes, kind of rounded that marsh and disappeared there for a little bit. Well, we're just kind of waiting there 15, 20 minutes, and hey, the water's rippling. Oh, there's Snappy. He comes around that bend, and he's coming back swimming toward us, and on his back is that little 4-year-old girl. She was all covered in mud and mosquito bites, her little pigtails hanging out there just dripping mud, and she's riding that alligator back toward us. And she sees her mom and dad, and she starts waving, and boy, she's got a big grin riding on this alligator, having a good old time. Snappy comes up the bank right to mom and dad. Oh man, they're leaping for joy. They're so happy, and they grab their baby, and it was all captured by our Channel 13 and ABC affiliate. Perhaps y'all saw it even over here in central Louisiana, because it became national news. Well, publicity's one thing. Too much publicity, we couldn't go out and chase crooks anymore. All of a sudden, we had to go to community meetings. I can't tell you how many pictures I've had with the mayor or with this senator. And then there was that time President Ronald Reagan came out and posed with Snappy and I. Well, it all kind of culminated sometime later. We were introducing a new crime fighting tool in this public relations and community outreach. McGruff, the crime dog. Remember him? I remember him too well. McGruff and I shared a stage, and we were talking to this big community forum. And the crowd was a little noisy. Not good like y'all. They were jibber-jabbering out there. And, well, the officer in the McGruff costume, that dog outfit with the trench coat, he wants to get their attention, so he goes, "Arr, arr, arr," kind of barks at them to get their attention. Snappy took offense to that. Remember, alligators kind of like have on their menu, dogs are right up there pretty close to the top there. And he heard that dog bark, and he thought maybe it was an attack. Snappy kind of went, "Roar," and leaped out there and latched on to the rear end of McGruff, the crime dog. Ripped out that costume, ripped the back of that trench coat all to pieces. That was the end of Snappy's policing career. At least he didn't get any real flesh, but I had to return Snappy down to the Atchafalaya swamps. No more policing with me. In fact, I couldn't even police anymore myself. I was punished, pretty severely punished. They made me wear that hot, smelly McGruff costume the rest of my career. That trench coat and that outfit, it was torture, pure, absolute torture. And I went out and talked to all the folks and told them all about taking a bite out of crime.